Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something interesting, Japan. It's often seen as, well, traditional, maybe a bit slow-moving economically, but suddenly it seems to be this real hotspot for global venture capital and private equity.
It really is. Quite a transformation.
Yeah, so we're going to dive into the source materials you sent over, try to figure out what's driving this, this surge in international investor interest.
It's a major shift. I mean, Japan's VC scene traditionally was pretty closed off. Very domestic.
Right.
But what really jumps out from the sources is this growing number of foreign professionals, even folks from Korea, stepping into leadership roles at some pretty major Japanese private investment firms.
So it's talent as well as money? That's interesting.
Exactly. This international talent, they bring different viewpoints, global networks, could really speed things up for Japanese companies looking to expand internationally.
Okay, so talent flow is part of it. And this seems tied into a wider increase in foreign direct investment, FDI, going into Japan overall.
Precisely. And what's really fascinating when you compare it is how robust Japan's funding system is.
How so?
Well, unlike some other places in the region that might lean heavily on, say, state-backed funds, which can be a bit unpredictable politically, Japan has this broad network. You've got regional banks, other financial institutions, and a lot of corporate venture capital arms, CVCs.
Yeah, right. The big companies investing in startups.
Yeah. So it creates a more diverse, maybe more stable, market-driven funding base, less reliant on just one source.
That makes sense. A definite advantage. The sources also mention a pretty big jump in foreign PE and VC deals and more M&A activity, too. Sounds like the global players are really stepping up.
They absolutely are. Some of these large-scale acquisitions by the big global PE firms, they're really boosting market confidence. You hear a lot of optimism talk about record deal making, assuming, the geopolitical situation stays relatively stable.
Okay, barring any major world events. So what's pulling all this global money in? The sources mentioned the U.S. and Taiwan specifically.
Yes, a huge factor is strategic investment in Japan's semiconductor sector. It's critical, right? Especially advanced memory, chip production. That's a big draw.
Okay, tech hardware.
And related to that, you've also got the growth of data centers. Lots of U.S. and Southeast Asian tech companies are building those out in Japan, and that's another major driver of FDI.
Right, the whole digital infrastructure piece. Now, moving beyond just private investment, how is all this affecting Japan's public markets? The stock market seems to be getting attention, too.
Yeah, the sources point to Japan's stock market being seen as, well, relatively undervalued compared to others.
A bargain, potentially.
Potentially, yeah. Plus, the current currency exchange rates are pretty favorable for foreign investors right now. So that combination makes Japanese equities look quite attractive. We're also seeing significant foreign money going into real estate and IT.
And it's not just the big established companies or sectors, right? The sources mentioned a surge into Japan's startup scene as well. Why the renewed interest there?
I think there's a growing belief in Japan's capacity for innovation again, and critically, the potential for Japanese startups to actually scale globally. Investors aren't just looking at the domestic market anymore.
So looking outward more.
Exactly. And don't forget the practical side. Japan's interest rates are still relatively low. That makes fundraising, just a bit easier for these ventures compared to elsewhere.
Right. The low rates plus Japan's overall stability, politically, economically, especially compared to some more volatile markets in the region, it kind of positions Japan as a safe haven, doesn't it?
It really does. You see that narrative playing out.
Yeah.
As global uncertainty continues, Japan's emerging as a top alternative investment spot in Asia, right up there with places like India, maybe Thailand, Indonesia.
And the Japanese government is actively encouraging this, aren't they? I saw a mention of a target to double cumulative FDI.
That's right. Quite an ambitious target by the end of the decade. They're rolling out initiatives, tax reforms, new policy frameworks, all aimed at making Japan more competitive internationally, plus supporting key industries like EVs and, of course, semiconductors.
So wrapping this up, it feels like a convergence. You've got policy changes, favorable macro conditions, this unique funding structure we talked about, and clear international interest. It's really shifting Japan's position on the global investment map.
Absolutely. It's redefining Japan's role, not just in traditional industries, but in these high-growth sectors, too.
Yeah.
A fundamental change is underway.
It really is. Which leaves us with a thought for you, our listener. As Japan opens up more to global investment, and with this unique, diversified funding ecosystem it has, what sort of new opportunities or maybe new challenges could pop up for international investors and for Japanese companies themselves in the next few years? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.